Hey, Facebook, CK here. I want to share with you the second leadership lesson that I learned from my ayahuasca ceremonies. One of the themes that I always bring into different ceremonies is how do I increase my capacity to serve? How do I increase my capacity to make a difference for my organizations, for the people that are in my organizations, and how do I add more value for people in my life? And as I share with you, one of my personal practices is to do ceremony with that intention in mind. And to me, this is ceremonies, plant medicine ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies is one of the most real way for me to face anything that I don't want to face, anything that's within my subconscious, that's hidden from plain view. There's a concept called your blind spots. If you think about a circle that is all of the knowledge in the world, a part of the circle is an area that you know, right? And a bigger part of that area, bigger slice of the pie is an area that you know that you don't know. The rest, the majority part of the whole space of knowledge is that you don't know that you don't know. So how do you explore areas in your life where you don't know that you don't know? The way that I use ayahuasca ceremonies is a way for me to explore what I don't know about the area of leadership. So case in point, I remember in one of the ceremonies that I experienced, I very vividly was brought back to the earlier part of my childhood, 3, 4, 5 years old approximately. And at the time, I remember vividly that my mom told me, be an example to your brothers. And at that point, it felt like such a burden that I had to be an example for my younger brothers. And it became a burden. From that point of view, I had a lot of resentment for this bestowed responsibility that I didn't want. And the challenge that I had to face is continue to put my ego aside, the I don't want to increase my capacity to really serve my brothers and for others as well. But during that time, I was young. I didn't really quite understand why I needed to do that. So I would then abuse my authority, my power as the biggest brother, to then abuse my younger brother, so abuse my power. And I would take out my frustration on them. This isn't anything that I'm proud of saying that's what I did, but in my younger self, that's what I did. So I would then force them to serve my interests. I would force them to do certain things to my liking, like bring me my snacks or water, and little things like that, as a way to serve my interest. And obviously we grew out of that time. I got more mature and we reconciled that experience. But in that ceremonial experience, I really had to face what a terrible brother I was. I wasn't there to help my brother, to lift him up. Rather, I was abusing my power. And it sounds small because it was decades ago, but during that ceremony, that's all I was thinking about. And what I got from sitting with that for hours and hours, the shame of not living up to the ideal version of what a big brother should be and how they turn out, because they turn out amazing human beings. And what part of their turning out could I take some credit for? How I have contributed to their turning out. So what I gather from reliving that memory was, oh, what I should have done is meeting them where they were instead of forcing them to my standard. Because part of the frustration and the friction that I have with them is not only do what I say, but also rise up to the standard that I set for you as your oldest brother. And I wanted to emphasize this leadership lesson because this is not different than how a manager, how an executive will relate to the people that he or she or I managed. At the time, I was the head of culture for a fast-growing startup, and effectively, I was managing the well-being of 100+ people. And I was using my own standard, measuring them for whether or not they meet my standard. And my standard was the standard of culture as my responsibility. And I realized that somewhere along the line, how I could have been a better leader for that organization was really to meet my people where they were individually, instead of using my yardstick and measuring everyone and trying to impose my standard on people. And I had to face very similar emotions that I had to face with my brothers. The gap between what I now know as the standard of what a great leader is and where I was. Basically, I was using my ego and trying to show them off on how much further they can push themselves. And some people appreciated it and some people didn't appreciate, understandably. And I'm sharing this whole story with you is to make a point. Forcing people to measure up to some arbitrary standard, personal, managerial, or organizational, from my point of view, is ineffective. Ultimately, people want to be lifted up, and meeting them where they are is the best way to inspire a greater aspirational, to rise up to a new standard. So that's what I want to share with you. This is one of the key lessons that I learned, that I earned through a very difficult ceremonial experience. I want to share that with you. Let me know how you relate to this story. I look forward to sharing my next leadership lesson from my ceremonial experiences. Take care.